Yo, 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 welcome everybody. It's Leo here once again with Jason Aponte. He's kind of my loyal one, my day one. I need someone to hop on.
Uh-huh.
Jason's basically the first one, like, yo, I got it. Let's talk football.
Let's do
So
it.
thank you for
Anything,
coming on once
anything
again.
to anything to anything to get out of that time. I'm sorry.
I hear you. So if you guys are watching on Twitter or on Periscope, we're probably gonna freeze out quite a bit, especially if you're not on Wi-Fi. It's probably unwatchable for you. So just go edit, hop over to YouTube, type in Tap Done Sports, and you'll see Jason and I there, as well as make sure you follow 49ers GoldMine on Twitter, as we'll have some fire content coming out pretty soon, to where you're going to see some of Jason's work on there, firing, basically all types of breakdowns you'd like to see, more of a student side of the game, as well as some other stuff he has going on. It'll be exclusive to 49ers Goldmine, as well as I'll have my work on there as well as plenty of other great individuals. So I just wanted to spend basically about 30 minutes talking about the direction of the 49ers and where things are looking for the future. Although this is day 2 into the offseason, so we have no idea what the hell's going to go on, and neither does Shanahan and Lynch, essentially, even though those are the guys in charge. They don't know much either because they're 2 days in. It's hard to say what the landscape is going to be. And that's why I'll give everybody what they want to start off the show. And it's why Shanahan and Lynch expect, they use that word, expect Garoppolo to be the starter in 2021. Go ahead, Jason.
Um, you know, I think that it's a bunch of things, right? So it's making sure that you don't tank any sort of value for the quarterback just in case, and you give yourself all the wiggle room in the world. To me, that wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but just a matter of fact state in December. Asking someone what the quarterback situation is going to be in December, you're usually going to get some sort of coach speak answer like that. Nothing about that really was definitive or gave me any sort of idea as to what to expect at this with this position. So I think it's more just taking it easy, giving themselves all the wiggle room in the world just in case, so they don't have to come back and say, well, we did say that, but we did something else. I feel like this was just like a lukewarm way to say we're just going to keep evaluating and we'll see what we come up with.
Yeah, I'm on the same side as that. It's Shanahan's going to make the ultimate call at the quarterback position. It's not going to be anybody else. It's not going to be Lynch. It's not going to be Adam Peters if he's still here. We'll get into that a little bit later. It's Shanahan's call on this. And to expect that Shanahan has already made his decision when, one, he hasn't evaluated the veteran starters, potential starters in the league yet, because he just spent the entire season game planning for the San Francisco 49ers, not game planning for what quarterback he wants next year. And two, if he hasn't done that for the current NFL veterans, he has not done that for the incoming rookie class. So to say Garoppolo's not going to be our guy when you don't have a backup plan in place would be ridiculous. Would be the worst thing you could do as a franchise, saying, yeah, we have zero backup plan, but we know Garoppolo's not going to work. You don't do that. You do that if Brian Hoyer is your quarterback. If CJ Beathard's your quarterback, you do that. Blaine Gabbert. You get the pattern here? you do that with those guys. You don't do
The
that with
pattern,
Jimmy
the pattern's
Garoppolo.
49er legends.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't do that with Tim Rattay. I'm just kidding. You
Right.
do that with Tim Rattay. So with Garoppolo, he's on a level to where you could get some type of assets for him, even if he's making $27 million a year. Somebody's going to bite
Yeah.
because they don't want to compete with anybody else.
Right. And then this isn't a Dwayne Haskins thing, right? Like, like where it's just like, oh, he's cut and anybody can get him, right? You still want people to understand. So if if you're looking to return anything from Jimmy Garoppolo, what do you gain by saying, man, he's done. We're not messing with him or whatever. You say all these things because who would want a franchise quarterback, in whoever's eyes if they don't even want him? So, I mean, I think it's all
Yep.
shrewd on their part, like, and I wouldn't say that it's to pump up the value, but they understand exactly what they're doing. You can read between the lines. Like, there's no reason for them to bash the guy. And when you dig a little bit deeper into the quotes that what Jimmy was asked, it's all there in front of you for you to put it together. That they are telling you the safety net is Jimmy will be back, but there's no way that they're not exploring other options, whatever they may be.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan said this year he's going to be more aggressive, unlike last season. And I take that, you know, as a selling point to where he's going to be more aggressive in a backup role. Well, how aggressive are you going to be? Are you going to go pay Tyrod Taylor $8 million? Now you're paying that quarterback position $35 million for Garoppolo and Tyrod Taylor. That's not too aggressive for me. That's just ludicrous to spend that much money for those two names. So I see it aggressive as he's going to exercise his resources, see what's out there, see what he can get in the draft, and he's going to be aggressive that way. And I wouldn't necessarily, since they're so up against the cap, it's just hard to say they're going to keep him or get rid of him because which here, really good. Yeah,
Hi,
exactly.
Kosh. Hi, Kosh. How are you, buddy?
My
Nice
guy,
to
my
see you,
guy.
man.
So it's like after the season Shanahan just went through this year, after the season he just went through in 2018, where he was dependent on his backup quarterback role. So to say that he's just going to roll with the rookie week one and not have any type of backup role established that's not CJ Beathard, it's not going to be Nick Mullins. He's not going to be healthy to be there week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and probably 6. And who knows, is Tommy John. He may miss all 16. I don't know how his body's going to react to Tommy John. Everybody is different. But I am confident when saying he's not going to be there through at least week 6. So he cannot be your backup option. Beathard cannot be your backup option. There's going to have to be two there, and I wouldn't discount it if they get stuck with Jimmy G and still draft someone round 1 overall. They don't know. They don't know. To sit here as a couple bloggers to say that we know exactly what they're going to do, it's hard because they don't know what they're going to do. It's going to come down to would they want to keep a couple of guys and shed Jimmy's cap, and maybe you get 3 starters and get rid of that one quarterback that hasn't been reliable for you the past 3 years, or B, keep that unreliable quarterback for the past 3 years and let those other 3 starters walk.
Right.
That's the
I think
situation they're in.
they would be insane to not address the quarterback's position in some way, whether that's starter or backup. And for all those reasons that you just named, the health thing is crazy, man. 23 missed games, look, you can say whatever you want about Jimmy Garoppolo's play. We're not talking about that, but the guy's just not on the field. And it's hard to justify that investment when the guy's missing more games than he is playing. And that's just the cold hard facts, right? That's not an opinion. That's not anybody coming for Jimmy or bashing him. It's just what it is,
Yeah.
right? And they would be insane to just go ahead. I mean, obviously you can't because, Nick isn't going to be back, but you'd be insane to not add 1 or 2 quarterbacks to this room, or maybe 3 if, that's the way it all plays out. But to not address this quarterback room this offseason, I feel would be a huge, huge, huge error.
So with Rosen, I would like to say I think you would think about him as a 3rd quarterback option. And the fact that Shanahan's been screwed at the quarterback position 2 of the past 3 seasons, to where you cannot comfortably go with Rosen as your number 2 guy. You need someone in there that you can trust for about 3 starts. That's going to be the floor. It's not 1 start. Usually you look at a backup role and say, hey, we want to get someone that could give us 1 start. They've been plagued so bad, you're going to say we're going to look for someone that can give us 3 starts. That's not Rosen.
Right.
The issue with Rosen is he turns over the ball at a rapid rate. The issue with Mullins is he turns over the ball at a rapid rate. So what upgrade are you really getting there with Rosen? Not enough to where I'm comfortable with him being my QB2 going into week 1.
I mean, I think that, we've talked about this a ton, right? The talk around Rosen is purely just the unknown, right? And I think that, for the most devout Shanahan supporter, you're looking right at one, right? I feel like if he gets his hands on any quarterback, he can change certain things. But you did point out the Nick Mullins thing, and he's had him the entire time. But we're talking about an undrafted free agent, and we're talking about a guy with some sort of first round pedigree. Look, you're not going to find a guy who's going to be waving the flag more for keep Rosen around and see what happens than me. But I completely understand what you're saying because all of those things are true. My opinion on that is just purely based on the idea that I believe that there might be something there. And it's hard for me to just take what I saw in Arizona and Miami as like just whatever, what the book on him, right? It be the book for sure. I'm just not ready to use that small sample size of a season and a few games with Miami to completely close the book on Rosen. So it's purely about the unknown for me at this point.
Yeah. So as far as who do you think they can trade for? I think
good question.
They can get the third quarterback on the draft, off the draft board, and I think you're happy with that because then we're talking about Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. If the 49ers land one of those two quarterbacks, they're sitting pretty, and a quarterback 2, I would say, upgrade over Rosen. So say you get rid of Jimmy G. That's $24 million saved in cap. I would go give Tyrod Taylor that $6 million.
Yeah, or
you're still saving. You're still saving $18 million at the quarterback position. I would give Tyrod Taylor's low turnover rate. That's someone I could start 3 games, maybe the first 3 games of the year, if he wants to give, say, Zach Wilson or Justin Fields a couple times, or even Trey Lance if he wants to give him some time. But if there's that opportunity to save $24 million when you have substantial starters like K1, Trent Williams, Kyle Juszczyk, Jason Verrett, Kella Witherspoon, I guess he's kind of
Kerry Hyder.
Hey, I'm open to it. Kerry Hyder. You take that. Yeah. Go ahead, Jason. You're going to say something.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. And I see Marco in the comments, the Andy Dalton route is the same thing as the Tyrod Taylor route, but just a little bit of a higher ceiling, right? Like, so the thing is with Tyrod, right, the Chargers tried that last year with him, and man, yes, he doesn't turn the ball over, but he doesn't do anything really. Like, right. Like he doesn't, right? So that's the thing, right? Like, yes, he's not going to turn the ball over, but he's not going to score you any points, right? Like that offense went in the tank, and then the change to Herbert was just like instant, like immediate, right? So look, I love the idea of having a guy who's going to be a placeholder, and Tyrod's one of those guys for sure. I just think that if you want to give yourself a little bit more of a ceiling and wiggle room to win some games, if it's the first 3 weeks, it's Andy Dalton over Tyrod Taylor, and then you go to your guy, whoever that is. But honestly, the thing that you said is perfect. If they're going to trade for anybody, it's got to be somebody in this draft. I'm in love with the Stafford idea. Don't know how realistic that is. I'm not going to talk about that because that's something that, you need 2 organizations to agree to that. And I'm not certain they're on the same page, at least with that. So I won't speculate on that. So if we're just going based off the draft, then go get it in the draft. Have Wilson, have Fields sit there. If it's 3 games, it doesn't matter. You go 1-2, you go 2-1, you go 0-3, whatever. You're still building for the future. So like this idea that a placeholder has to be this world beater, that's come on, man. Like you really don't need that. So if we're talking game managers, give me Dalton over Tyrod Taylor because at least Dalton gives you a little bit more upside to win games than Tyrod Taylor, who's just going to be a guy who's not going to lose it for you, but he's not going to win it for you either.
That's fair. And the 49ers do have some capital to trade up in the first round, where they're currently sitting at 12. If they want to go to probably 4, because I doubt the Dolphins are going to want to trade back with Penei Sewell available on the board, you would figure at 3, and they need that protection if they want to keep Tua healthy. So you're probably looking at 2 1s. Their current one at 12, and then a 2022 one. The 49ers can do that, and they're going to, once Saleh gets hired, we're going to get into that a little more. Once Saleh gets hired, they're picking it up an extra 3. They have about 9 picks in this draft alone.
And not just this draft, the next one, right? They get 2 thirds.
Yeah, they would get another third. So that means in 2022, they have their first, second, and 2 thirds. In 23, they have their first, second, and third. So they have all that capital there. And they can do it. Realistically, they could do it. That leap is not as far as some of us may think. Because I would think it's a lot. But it's if you look at previous drafts to where it took somebody to trade that far up, it was not It was 2 1s and then just little seasoning of a second and a third. The 49ers could do that. They have the capital, the draft capital to go ahead and do so.
Right. And then this regime is shown about trading up. Like I'm not certain why anybody even thinks that this regime wouldn't do that. They did it for
Yeah.
Dante Pettis. They did it for Reuben Foster. They moved back up for Brandon Ayuk. The list goes on and on. So when people tell me that this regime doesn't trade up, I just ask you, like, are you watching the same things that everybody else is? You know, so I mean, that's the thing, right? And that's what makes this discussion beautiful on January 5th, right? We can talk about all these possibilities, right? And in 2 months, we
Yep.
can look back and say, man, were we wrong? So like
Yeah.
that's another thing that I would love to, caution, patience. You won't really get a grasp on what teams are looking for in the draft until free agency shakes out.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you know what teams are going to be filling up their holes with free agents or draft picks? You won't know really. So that's another thing, right? Guys become available quickly after free agency, right? When they realize there's no market, or things like that. So, who knows, man? Like it's fun to talk about now, but I can't wait until like right before the draft when we like go and look back and we're just like, man, did I really say that Andy Dalton is like the stopgap or whatever? Like that's what makes this beautiful. So
Yeah. So we could talk about quarterbacks all day, but just for the sake of your sanity and our sanity, let's go ahead and switch it up a bit. We have full off season. We have all the way
yeah.
until April to figure out what the hell they're gonna do in the draft at quarterback, because I think that's where they'll go. You could debate with me until then. And so let's make an early prediction for Robert Saleh. He has been requested by 4 of the 6 available teams as far as head coaching vacancies. That's He interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons last night. Chargers requested for him. Jacksonville requested for him, as well as Detroit requested for him. What's your early, without Saleh going through all the interviews? So the more interviews he goes through, the more leakage is going to be out there. If a team really wants him, they're not going to let him leave the building. So without being in that stage of the process, what's your early prediction for him, necessarily where you think his mind is going to be at and where you think he should be at?
The easy choice is Detroit, right? Michigan boy goes home, all those things, right? Like that's easy, right? And then you have a team that you know you could mold if you keep Matthew Stafford. See, they just came off of Patricia, defensive minded. So I don't know why this. You can let me know if I'm crazy if this comes into my thought process. But
Mm-hmm.
Patricia was a defensive minded coach. They'll go to somebody like Saleh, same thing, defensive minded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville's the only other one that I really can see. I really wish he would take the Chargers job. If Saleh was smart, the job that everybody should be trying to run. Oh, there you go, Kobe. The job that everybody should just run to is the Chargers. Like you have a guy, you got weapons around him, you got a Bosa. It's hard to argue with what the Chargers have right now. But I think it's between probably Detroit and Jacksonville. Detroit for the obvious reason, and then Jacksonville for the obvious reason too, right? Like he gets to go down there and really, he'll get his guy, right? He's gonna get Trevor Lawrence. That's attractive, right? Like as bad as that defense is, you still have Josh Allen, and you have guys on that defense that you can mold, right? It's one of those two, right? Detroit has a quarterback who might be on his way out a little bit, in a few years. Or you can go to Jacksonville and completely start all over with your guy. I just think it's one of those two. But I mean, Detroit's the easy answer just because of the connection with home.
Yeah, I think if he chooses Detroit, he would be thinking with his heart and not his head. And if he goes to Detroit, there has to be some type of understanding. They're not going to win right away. They got to figure out that Stafford situation. Sounds like Stafford doesn't want to go through another rebuild. If they guarantee Saleh, hey, we're going to give you these X amount of years. If they give Saleh a 5-year deal, he's going to have 3 years at most. So he's got to show promise at least in year 3. If he shows 9-7 at year 3, then he's going to, stay the course with Detroit. So it just depends what ownership wants there in Detroit. Do they want to move on from Stafford and just do a complete rebuild, or do they want to try and do a rebuild with Stafford, even though Stafford's on record saying he doesn't want to go through a new rebuild? It's just it's a difficult situation. As well as with the Chargers, I feel like it's a great place for him to land, but I think it's the Chargers, and I think they find a way to mess it up, and then they go hire Jason Garrett.
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, they go hire Jason Garrett, or,
you know what?
Adam,
Look,
and then Adam Gase as the OC.
I'll say
typical
this,
Chargers, right?
I'll say this about Jason Garrett. Yeah, we like to make fun and all that stuff, but Dak developed all right, man, under him, man. I think that's a little bit, I think that everybody's afraid because they don't want Herbert near him, but I think it's a little bit, it's turned more into a meme than anything or whatever. Like everybody went crazy when they saw that they were calling him in for an interview, but Dak wasn't so bad under him, man. Like, that's I get it though. I get why everybody's making jokes.
Yeah, Dak wasn't so bad under him, but that team did underachieve quite a bit.
Oh, I mean, the play calling was atrocious. Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, you could be a great designer, but if you don't know when to call plays, that could screw you. Right. So with Jacksonville, I think that's a great place for him because I think that's another place to where they're not necessarily looking to be a contender in the AFC from day one. That's all it takes over. And then he does have pieces on that team. He has it with C.J. Henderson. He has it with Josh Allen. What's his name? Schober or something. He's a tackling machine at the middle linebacker position. So he has pieces on defense. A corner, a tackling machine at middle linebacker, and an edge rusher. 3 solid positions. And then you're going to have Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback. And then you're going to have another first-round pick.
Right, and they have their running back already.
Yeah, you look at the landscape of the division, it's the Colts, they're good on defense. They're solid, but they don't have a quarterback. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be. And then you move on to Texans. They have a superstar quarterback, but can they figure out what the hell they're trying to do there? Or they're just going to, ruin Deshaun Watson's career and what he can do in the NFL. And then you have the Tennessee Titans where they're good, but they're not great. They're not like the Ravens, even though they knocked out the Ravens last year in the playoffs, but they're not, I wouldn't put them up against the Ravens. I would say they probably lose more than they win against that team. They're not as good as the Chiefs, and they're not as good as, maybe they are as good as Pittsburgh because Ben Roethlisberger is so freaking bad.
Yeah.
But if I look at first Robert Saleh, I would say probably Jacksonville would be the smart decision for him because it's kind of similar to Detroit, where with that roster you're not going to win in year one. LA you would with the Chargers, but they're stupid, so they're not going to hire him. And if you're not expected year one, which team gives you the most growth to advance year over year? Which team gives you the higher ceiling? And that's going to be Jacksonville.
I think a lot of people in the comments are actually right, and I didn't think of this either, right? So the owner down there, Shad Khan, I think that's his name. Apparently he's going to be the one in charge of personnel. Now, I think that's a little bit of a deal breaker, if you ask me, especially if you're a coach coming in who's coming in to overhaul this entire culture of what the Jaguars are, and you're getting Trevor Lawrence. I didn't think of that until I saw it in the comments. That scares me a little, and I would potentially think that scares any head coach going in there. Like, I'm going to be in charge of personnel, and it's your job to coach them up, but if they don't, if it doesn't work, I'm firing you.
Yeah.
That's a tough spot to be in. I never thought of it like that. So, I mean, that's a good point in the comments. A bunch of people are pointing that out.
Yeah. If I could find one here, I'll go ahead and throw it up here. But,
I mean, it's great because we think about it like, hey, they're about to, see, the owner went on record saying he makes personnel decisions, not the coach. See, that's tough. That's a tough sell. See, that goes to show you why franchises stay bad. Just not adapting, like, be smart enough to give the decisions to the people who can actually make them, and don't expect somebody to come in here and want to be part of what you're trying to build personnel wise, as far as, like, you have to give guys full control, I think, if you want to bring them and you want to offer them the house. So I thought Jacksonville would be good because of Trevor Lawrence, but with that information, that's a tough sell, honestly. That's really a tough sell. I hate his stupid mustache.
Yeah, and like what Marco pointed out here, it's Atlanta is on the record for saying they want to build for the future, not now. And with Atlanta, they do have New Orleans. Even without Drew Brees, they're probably still going to be really, really competitive year in, year out. Tampa Bay, who knows? Once Tom Brady leaves, um, who knows what goes on with Tampa Bay? So there's opportunity for divisional championships with Atlanta, but it's one of those years situations where I don't think they're expected to win as much as Jacksonville could win in the early stages.
Let me toss this out to you with the Falcons. The Falcons are coming off of another defensive head coach with Dan Quinn. Do you think that that's what they want to prioritize here with Saleh? I mean, obviously, right? Is that something that something that you think about, like as far as do they want an offensive minded coach there again, or do they? I mean, or do they want it instead because they just had Dan Quinn
I think they just want a leader of men.
and somebody who can win games, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's all they want. They'll take an offensive guy, they'll take a defensive guy, the one who gives them the best chance to win. I think that's who they'll take. And I think a lot of these teams are looking at what Robert Saleh did with this depleted defense and said, "Hey, that offense was a turnover machine, and this defense was still top 10 in almost every single defensive category."
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, for
think
sure.
about how many interceptions they had, but yet they were one of the teams in the NFL that led in least red zone possessions to opposing offenses.
Insane.
How?
And they turned the ball over on their side of the field how many times?
Yeah, yeah. So I would probably say Jacksonville, but now I'm not leaning towards Jacksonville just because now that I had that owner being the GM pointed to my face, um, man, that's tough
That's
to
tough.
go
That's
ahead
a
and
tough.
accept.
That's a tough thing to accept. Exactly right. Hey, we
Hmm.
really want you to come in here and overhaul everything, but I'm gonna pick the players and you just coach them. That's not a. That's not a. Oh, and also we're the Jaguars.
Yeah, and what a lot of people forget is people in that position, they don't like to take blame. To where the ownership could have made terrible picks and said, "Man, if these players would have turned out studs if they had better coaching. These guys would have been all pros. They would have been Pro Bowlers only if the coaching was better. I know what I did. I know this guy is good. This is not my
Yeah.
fault. This is the coaching's fault." Of course, that's going to happen.
Yeah. That's the thing,
And
right? And it's a no-win situation, right? It almost feels like if it all goes right and you guys win a Super Bowl, the owner's like, "See what I did," and when it all goes wrong, he's like, "See what the coach did." Like that's just a no-win situation. I feel like now that I've had a chance to actually like read those comments and think about it, man. I don't know. It's tough. That's a tough sell.
yeah, so we did want to get into a little more here,
Mhm.
but we're running close to our 30 minutes, and let's go ahead and just round it out.
Yeah.
Keep it on defensive coordinator.
Mhm.
Who would you like to see replace Robert Saleh?
Me, D'Amico Ryans, but that's not gonna happen. I
Same.
think that I think he goes with Salah. Honestly, D'Amico's the easiest one, right? Like this linebacker core is taking a leap every time. Every
Hmm.
time a new guy steps in, they've been developed very well. D'Amico's done a great job. He understands the scheme. He's in on all of these meetings, and he understands the scheme inside and out. It would be like not missing a step. Unfortunately, I think he goes with Salah.
Yeah, I want it to be D'Amico as well, is because I think I tweeted this out. If I look at the steps they took, Fred Warner, he was a third round draft pick, and now he's all pro Fred, what we call him. You look at Drake Greenlaw. To me, he's the number one LB2 in the NFL. I don't care what Levante David's doing in Tampa Bay. Go ahead and comment that if you want. I don't care because I think Drake Greenlaw is better than him. Considering what he's doing as a year two guy, once he gets more experience, I think he's better than him now. He had a 4.4 missed tackle percentage this season. Quan Alexander was always in the teens.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. And a lot of those tackles that he was making was against guys like Alvin Kamara in open field. Think about that Saints game. How many times did Alvin Kamara juke him out of his shoes? I don't think he did it once.
Yeah.
So he's done that. And then Al-Shaair, now that Quan's been gone, he's getting better and better each game that goes by. Look at this last game against the Cardinals. He was a force.
Imagine this, Leo. Force. Imagine this one, Leo. Guys get better with reps.
I never heard that.
Novel concept.
That feels like myself. My very first episode, I was complete trash, and now I'm a little better than trash. So I am getting better with the reps as well. It's crazy that football players work in that same way. Who I personally want is D'Amico Ryans. I want him to be the DC. It's kind of premature to make him the DC right now because he's only has 3 years as a position coach. I think it was premature to make Robert Saleh as a DC, and we saw the growing pains he had. It wasn't rainbows and butterflies his first year in, or even his first year and a half in. It wasn't. A lot of people had questions about him. Luckily, I said, give this guy some time. I see potential. Give him some time. And I'm only saying it because you have to claim your dubs. You have to.
because they don't come so quick. They don't come as frequently as the L's.
So I would say do the same thing with D'Amico. Keep them together. Your captain on defense, Fred Warner, respects the hell out of him, and it just keeps that continuity to where you keep that ship together. That's what I would personally like to see. It's going to be up to Shanahan. Shanahan's preaching him that he's someone who's going to be a head coach one day. So if you're saying that about the guy already, just make him your DC. Just do it.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the only way to do it, right? Like you would have to do that, prematurely, right? Like you would have to do that, but it's tough, right? Like that's that. I mean, I knew we were going to talk about it, but it's the same thing with Peters. The only way that you lock Peters up is if you make him the GM, right? You just force him into GM and you push Lynch up to president, right? That's the only way he can't take the job. But if he's offered the GM job somewhere else, he can take it. You can't block that. There's nothing you can do for it. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, so who's better, Greenlaw or Chris Borland? I would say Chris Borland was just, he was a really good player, but I think he was more like of the Blake Martinez role to where he couldn't really do much in coverage and he was a straight tackling machine, where Greenlaw, he's not Fred Warner in coverage, but I would say he's slightly better than average to where Borland wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would change there is I just think that Greenlaw has to work on his coverage, right? Like that was the reason they didn't bring Quan here for his tackling. They brought him here to cover guys. Like that was the thing, right? So like it's he just needs to improve there a little bit more, and once he does, then he's fine because he's a tackling machine and he actually does everything the right way. So.
Perfect. Well, Jason does have a show coming on here in about 23 minutes. So we're going to cut out. We just wanted to come on, talk with you guys, talk some Niners football. We know the offseason started yesterday. Go ahead and check out Jason. This will be live on your YouTube channel, correct?
So this is going to be on, this is my hip-hop podcast, so it's not the same thing. If it's not 49er, content, you guys will have to jump on. Yeah, I know. But still. You guys can tune in. It's the Potent Podcast on YouTube if you guys want to drop in and check us out. But you know what it is, guys. 49er content all day. Sprint right option on Wednesday, on Friday. And next week I'm cooking up something, a nice little live, that I was talking to Leo about too. So, just keep an eye out for that. And, 49ers GoldMine, you already know, right?
Perfect. Yep, exactly. 49ers GoldMine. I appreciate you guys checking in. Probably be on another day this week. We just wanted to do something quick and talk some Niners football since the offseason did kick off yesterday. Stay safe.
Yep.